But Black women, again, they are the poster child pretty much for anything related to degradation.
You have this weird twist now, because now there's this like feminization of the black man. Like hood culture and rap culture became very popular around the early 2000s, and now I think because they've like seen like, oh, you know, now this is catching on and influencing our kids, now we got to demasculate the black man, you know, to kind of like push it in the other direction.
It's almost like
really?
it's almost like they're turning the black man into the black woman and the black woman into the black man.
Yes, yes. See, now the pieces are coming together.
Really
Yeah. What's poppin', everybody?
Welcome back to the Cole Podcast.
I'm Zoe.
And I'm Steve.
And today we're going to be responding to a video that attempts to highlight the problem in the black community right now, and answer or pose the question whether black women are ruining their image. It's going to highlight, I'm assuming, kind of what's been going on with a lot of the entertainment sphere of black women, such as the Sexy Red or Sukiana, and whether or not that is lending to this stereotype that, you know, black women act a certain way, and whether that's you know, bad for the black community.
Yeah, so a lot of people have a conception of black women basically having a toxic image in certain communities. Like, for example, in, you know, like Zoe was saying, in like entertainment, in rap especially, like probably mostly in rap.
Yeah, TV media, you know, stereotypes like that. Maybe even a Medea could be thrown in there.
But we're going to see what this woman has to say about what she thinks about people like Sexy Red and other black women.
Yeah.
But black women, again, they are the poster child pretty much for anything related to degradation. And that's just a problem. And honestly, what triggered me, I think I ran across a couple of videos of a black woman going viral for just saying, quite frankly, just really dumb stuff. And you're listening to them and you're just like, you're giving relationship advice, you're giving marital advice, and you're a prostitute. Like, does somebody not see a problem here? Like, but black women, again, they
so like she makes really a point there. Like I would say that it does seem like black women are kind of like the poster child for like anything that's derogatory or negative about women in general.
Yeah, and the messed up part is, it's like, I think it's like a thing that it's true, and the worst part is I think like everyone knows it. Like every like entertainment knows it, because whenever if you notice, like there are rarely any like black like female like entertainers, or like there aren't very many of them that aren't always pushed to kind of highlight like a very ratchet personality, or like they're being overly sexualized in like kind of the most you know, very street kind of way.
Right.
And it's like, but you don't see that happening that much in other communities. Like you'll have your outliers, of course, but like for the most part, it seems like that's kind of like the bread and butter for when it's like you have a black female entertainer. It's like they always want to try to drive and focus on that. And I think it's like, at this point, I think it's like a conscious thing, and I think black people and our support of it and our constant like letting this happen is only going to make it worse.
And promoting it also. We also drive behind it and say like, hey, you know what? That new Sexy Red song, I'm going to play it in my car every day so everyone can hear it.
Yeah, and I'm going to go to my third grade. I'm going to have them sing the song. I'm going to say skewy.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems to be like a just like an increasing trend. So I'm not sure. I mean, I think in the 80s or whatever, they had a lot of like kind of crazy, not crazy, but more raunchy singers. But these days it's more so a lot more sexualized with these, you know, current ones. But it's like, who's letting these people in? Who's what record labels? Who's at the top that's allowing these people to be like this? Like, who's signing
it's
them?
China, bro.
Who's signing them? Like, okay, like, we
China.
like these people. I like you, Sexy Red. You're ratchet. You're ghetto.
Yeah,
you're nasty. I like you. I'm gonna sign you. Make this music and make me some money.
I think it's almost like it's. So I see what you're saying. You're basically making a point that it's the white man or something. But
I'm just saying the ones that whoever is in charge is allowing these people to get through.
Yeah,
right.
There's several.
There's
one
agenda.
way and then there's another way.
There's an agenda to destroy. Well, there's an agenda to destroy the black image, and they successfully did that. Now they moving on to the female. And that's where Sexy Red comes in play.
So you think they destroyed the black man, now they want to destroy the black woman?
I think they successfully put the black man in a category. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like it started with the black man, and now it's, you know, the black woman, because it's like it started with the black man in the sense of
they were trying to make us thugs.
Yeah, like like NWA. If we talking
Yeah.
music, it started with the not
NWAs.
the deterioration, but like
Like NWA or something.
NWA. That's an all male group, all black men, right? And there's plenty more to come after them. And now we got Sexy Red.
They name niggas with attitudes though. I wouldn't use them.
I mean, they all
They name
men.
niggas with attitude. I wouldn't use them as an example.
But that's what I'm saying
put that
though.
on
They
they
niggas.
stuff.
They niggas with attitude.
Yeah, that was just a bunch of niggas with attitudes. No, but actually, it's funny. If I'm gonna put on my conspiracy hat, because I'm like, I get what you're saying, and I get how the pieces kind of line up very coincidentally. Because if you look back between like the 80s and the 90s, with how the media was, I mean, every black classic was always like some hood classic that was like, young man trying to, make a difference in the community and make it out the hood and get his degree,
Right.
and get his mama a better life. And his girl's like trying to push him in the right direction, like, you don't gotta be out in these streets, baby. And then he makes it out. His best friend gets shot in a drive-by. And then he finds a way to mourn his death, but then also go to college.
Expression.
Like you had a bunch
You
of
had a lot
those.
of expression back
Yeah,
then.
and I think like those were like a movie that was a symptom of like the whole like indoctrination to like the idea that black people are from the hood. Thug culture, popularizing that, and I think that could be seen as like kind of a conspiracy in media to kind of push the idea that like blacks are low income people that like come from hood backgrounds, don't
Right.
have good home training or discipline to like strive for anything higher.
Right.
And I think they did that, but I think what happened is that you have this weird twist now because now there's this like feminization of the black man agenda with like the popularity of certain. They're like, oh, Kevin Hart's popular because, he's like the ideal, like white accepting type of black guy, not very masculine. Like they're going in reverse because I think like hood culture and rap culture became very popular around the early 2000s. And now I think because they've like seeing like, oh, now this is catching on and influencing our kids. Now we got to demasculate the black man, to kind of like push it in the other direction.
It's almost like they're
really?
it's almost like they're turning the black man into the black woman and the black woman into the black man.
Yes, yes. See, now the pieces are
I
coming
don't
together.
really see the
Yes.
demasculation personally. But
No.
You don't see
I
the
don't.
emasculation of the black male community.
Not even
I see
slightly,
that,
but-
bro. Like that's why you got rappers painting their fingers.
Think about
Oh,
it. Think about it. Think of the
like,
Jaden
Yeah,
Smith.
you
Think of
have to
the
be not looking.
think of
to
the
not
Jaden
see it.
Smith,
I
the
am
Tyler
not
the
looking.
Creators, the what was the
Lil
guy?
Nas X?
Who was
mean,
Young
look-
Thug wearing dresses.
I don't know what the dress thing. Those are hard. Those are hard
Yeah.
rappers, but
Or-
they are wearing dresses for.
I
I don't know what that's about.
I don't
'Cause you
have
can
a
do both, bro.
yeah.
I mean, sure.
Apparently.
it's weird, but I just want to
Skinny
go back
jeans.
to that point.
It seemed like it started with skinny jeans because
Skinny
bro,
jeans
niggas
was-
used to wear baggy like
Yeah.
Yeah, skinny
shit.
jeans was the first move. I remember that transition because I was probably in like 8th grade when they went from
Yeah.
like baggy clothes. I remember the first time I was like, you know what, everyone's doing it. I'm gonna start sagging. And then as soon as I got out of 8th grade and went to high school, it was like the jerk. You remember like the jerking phase where everybody was wearing skinny jeans and all that.
Yeah. And here's another thing too. It's like if you notice that like a lot of the black people that in media that go the most mainstream are usually the most tame. Like if you take an Ice Cube back in like the early 2000s, like he even stated like he had to smile more before they would allow him to like go mainstream because they had to kind of like he couldn't be NWA Ice Cube. He had to be like Family Man Ice Cube in order to get like notoriety. A Cat Williams could never hit mainstream appeal, even though at one point he was like the top comedian. But then when they found a Kevin Hart who's like, oh man, he's so easy to sell. The more like funny, small docile like black character. Like he's way more easy to sell to white people.
Yeah, he's not scary.
yeah.
He's not scaring all the white folks.
Whenever you
not
turn
scary. Look
on
how
Fox
short he
and
is.
you see like a host of like a game show, it's Wayne Brady, who I guess is now saying he's pansexual. Very tame black dude. Like you can notice they're pushing like a certain type of black dude into the mainstream to kind of represent it.
Right.
Here,
So-
let's actually. There's another video, Lizzie. Can you go to the restaurant video? It's to the left. This one actually kind of. I feel like this will give us a little bit more to talk about for sure. Let's see it.
Somewhere where we can feel good about ourselves as a. Cause one, stop the music, please. Somewhere where our people can feel good about ourselves as a culture, okay? No, real talk. And so all this twerking and shit, take it to Prime, take it to Pink. Don't bring it here because we're a restaurant. And so beyond that, 75% of my customers are ladies. And I want men to show respect for themselves for how they carry themselves here. So how can I tell the men to respect themselves and you guys are twerking on glass here? If you want to do it, get the fuck out my restaurant. Because I did it for our people and I did it for our culture. So don't do it now. Don't do it again. I don't want to hear it. If you don't like it, get out because I don't need your money. I need to provide something for my people. And don't do it again. Thank you.
So basically, a bunch of people was twerking in his restaurant, and it seems like he worked pretty hard to build that establishment, black-owned business. I respect the man.
Yeah.
But I think that kind of goes in line with what we were talking about because basically, in order to correct the harm that's been done to the black image, I think black people especially are going to have to like do work to, you know, set up those spaces or set up those, or like to hold standards, basically like this guy's doing, to hold standards and have like boundaries for what they will allow to happen within their community, basically.
No, 100%. I think you're gonna have to like start really enforcing the idea, rather, because you know black people have a real good tendency. Like we want to like. We'll be like, let's come together, push a movement, yada yada yada. Show up to like the Black Caucus, and then everyone gets there, and then it just turns into a party. It's like we got to start standing on some standards. It's like, all right, like I get it, we're all together, we're all happy to be here, but like stop twerking. Like you don't need to do that. Put the blunt away. We don't need to be like turn this into a hot box. Like I'm like we have a real hard time like taking shit seriously. And I think that's like even at the restaurants, like you got this black owned business. The first thing we want to do is get in there and act a fool. It's like, no, like we want people to look at us a certain way, but we can't help ourselves but just act out. It is like, no, like everyone sit down and eat your food and don't go on this route of like, oh, but that's how we are, that's our culture. No, okay, because clearly that's been the problem. So now we got to rewrite some shit. All right, sit down and eat your damn food.
But it's like as long as you
the damage has been done.
I think that people just label anything that black people do as black culture. So if you go against anything that any group, even if you're not in that group of people that do it, it's like some people will actually defend like twerking in the restaurant. Like, well, that's just what we do because we got soul.
Yeah, I've heard people defend. Like, I heard this one this one post saying like, if you got a girl and she goes off in public and she's yelling, don't silence her because that's a part of the white agenda. They don't want your woman to be loud and proud and boisterous. Like, if she gotta yell, let her yell. And I'm just like, anything like they defend it. We have no filter. Our community has no filter. We don't know how to like identify what is just bullshit and stuff we shouldn't do. Like we just like, well, if we're doing it, it must be what we do, so let's just do it. No,
we're too quick to claim.
That's a result of having actual culture.
Yeah.
You said that's a result of having no actual culture.
No actual culture.
Yeah, we're still
just making up shit.
I agree. I think that's the one thing about black. It's like we're still kind of like filling in the gaps of like what our culture is a little bit,
or more so, not even making up stuff, but just allowing things, just allowing every type of behavior.
Yeah.
I think there's it's like a double-edged sword because it's like because our culture is so loose and flimsy, we can actually like sort of innovate isn't a great word because a lot of times it's just bullshit, but basically like I'm sure everyone realizes that black people sort of they lead when it comes to culture a lot of the time. And I think that's because we don't have such a solid culture. I mean, so you could make an argument like, oh, well, we got taken from Africa and a lot of our cultural elements got taken away because of that. So we have a lot more of a free-form culture. So then we can innovate in a lot of different ways, but in that process of innovation, you also have a lot of trash that's created as well.
I want to respond directly to you, but Roosevelt, I want to hear, because it seems like you had like a take against what Leezy was saying.
Well, I mean, I just felt like, well, what did you say, Leezy? I kind of just lost myself.
I don't remember. Well, I was saying something about culture, like black people don't have a culture, but, which is not true, but it's like, I'm talking about like a culture,
like our culture isn't like very defined, I guess,
like an African historical root based culture is what I should probably clarify.
I feel like like because there's a difference from the historical African root culture
versus like American,
and then like the culture of black people, because black people started in America, you know what I'm saying? Right. So but I feel like the culture of black people is so it's like black people got the sauce, so to speak.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like we can make stuff popping, it's like when black people put their hands on things, it can make it popular, and that's why it's like a lot of things funnel through black people first before
that's true.
You feel me? Go out in a way.
Yeah, I think and this is like just kind of a guess, but I think the reason black culture is very provocative and it's very catchy. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of modern like entertainment and pop society has been like kind of taking from black culture is because a lot of our culture was kind of defined through how black people express themselves in media. Because like we didn't have like cultural roots or anything passed down like to a very like large significant extent, like coming out of slavery.
All we had was suffering.
Yeah, we just had
And
suffering.
that's how you make art, is suffering.
Yeah, so
Which
we
is
had
why
like
black people will always be great at that type of stuff.
100%. So we had, like you said, a lot of suffering. Then that produced a lot of soulful art, a lot of soulful music, a lot of soulful ways of expression that was like significantly more provocative and engaging than like other cultures that existed here at the time. You know, and I think, you know, other cultures take from that, and you know, we continue to build on that. But I think that's why we have a very entertaining and a very like, you know, lively sense of expression with our culture. But in terms of like something more grounded and like having like I guess a set of rules and stuff, like I think we tend to be a little bit more lacking in like what are the core foundations of our culture that would allow us to stay stable, because a lot of it was literally just like derivatives of like the evolution of entertainment culture only. So I think that probably attributes a little bit to why like it can be a little bit more dysfunctional, even though it's provocative, because it's like, okay, we know how to have fun and we know how to like be entertaining, but do we have like the foundations to like build stable households? Is that in our culture? Do we
Right.
have the
That's the real
culture
problem.
that like, you know, survived years off of certain types of cuisines, or have we like, you know, we still
Yeah.
eating the same stuff we ate in slavery?
Yeah.
So it's like, I think if we develop
That's the
those a little
real
bit more,
problem.
I think that's way more important now.
I feel like though resources come into play too, because I feel like black people always had more they had more resources when it come to producing like music. You know, like you said, like black people had more resources to produce music as opposed to you know, having that type of position in society where you building homes or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If that even makes sense. I really don't know if that makes sense though.
So
No, I think
trying to
I
say,
get what you're saying.
are you trying to say like basically like black people, when it came to like like prioritization, basically like they would prioritize making the music because they had the resources to do that, but they didn't have the resources to build a household?
It's easier to do or
It's easier to do, like,
more
and they
accessible.
hit, yeah. It's like just like, you know, every young black boy either want to be a rapper or a ball player.
That's
you
true,
know what I'm
yeah.
saying? It's like
It doesn't take
it's not a lot of
years
options.
of like studying, or
But they
going-
don't want to be
going
a father.
somewhere.
Like,
Well,
that's not
I-
something they would dream about, I
Right.
guess, like being
Yeah.
a father.
Yeah. The cultural exposure we have did like limited like our scope of what our options, what we perceived our options to be, you know? Cause like I said, our culture was largely defined in the entertainment sphere. And I remember at one point I had asked myself like, can you really name that many black people that have become very wealthy that aren't involved in either sports or entertainment? Because that's usually tends to be a lot of time the go-to, and I think that's like could be a telltale sign about like what our cultural priorities are. And like I said, you can have a very entertaining and engaging culture off that, but a lot of times it won't be that stable unless there's other core values there to like complement it.
I just thought of something. I think it's interesting because it's like maybe within other communities they have more examples of people that are like middle class wealthy, but like in the black community you're either like low class or you're
hood
like,
rich.
or you're hood rich basically.
Yeah.
So it's like they don't have like just standard role models to look up to generally.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, that's-
Most of the role
yeah,
models I had as a kid
historically.
was usually athletes.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
I do find it interesting. Maybe like the way I am, how I am is because I actually had like most of my family is middle class, but that's pretty rare, I guess, in the black community. So
Yeah.
I ended up having a different perspective. Like my goal was never really to be like a rapper. Like I never
Yeah.
thought of being an athlete or a rapper or anything like that.
You were
because
one of
I
the
had examples of people that were just like niggas with jobs.
Yeah, you were like one of the first people I met that like actually you were like, oh, I have like a family member that's a millionaire. That's unheard of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like just entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Like I'm more so interested in entrepreneurship than any other kind of thing that's like a real long shot, I guess.
No,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But no, that's a good point. I think we don't have. Sorry to cut you. I'll get.
Oh,
to.
no.
But yeah, we don't have like that said that many perspective as to like what a middle class successful person can be. You know, it's usually always just like one extreme or the other.
Right.
Yeah. I just think like, I don't know, this might be a little interesting for y'all to understand, but it's like we're still kind of in the early days of like black development in a positive sense. Just because of like, if you think about the 1960s and Jim Crow, civil rights and all that, like the physically, the amount of things black people are allowed to do is not that many generations removed. And it takes a lot of actual time for resources like housing and all that to trickle down to you to become wealth eventually. So that, you know, limits your options and your growth and all that. But still, we're still in the early days. I feel like, you know, as time moves on, in a few more generations, we'll have a really good opportunity to build stuff like a actually good culture and set of values and standards for our children and stuff. Because we know my family's from Chicago. I know pretty much all y'all families probably from Chicago. And Chicago was not a great place to live only about 20 to 40 years ago.
Yeah. Like, why do you feel like
all our families are from Chicago?
Why do you feel like eventually, you know, black people are going to be able to have that? Like, they're going to have that same...
We'll be able to get to that...
to that level.
That really good point.
Well, it's just a matter of generations. Like, there's white families that have had, you know, 30 generations of that same family. We're on like 5. Like, one time my brother, this actually put some of my thought into perspective, because I was going to make a dumb decision, and he was like, you're like a 3rd generation black person or something like that. He said it some way. I don't know if he said 3rd generation, but he said it like basically like my grandparents' grandparents were doing all right, basically. So he was saying that like generational wealth has already been built in your family, so you don't have to do stupid shit, basically. But what what I feel like Leezy's getting at is basically like, as more generations do things where it's like they get generational wealth or generational experience or a generational history, and they have a family that's like, generational stability is probably the best way to say it. As more of that tends to happen, then there will be more opportunity for black people in the country, and they won't have to resort to kind of like exactly what I said. Like, they don't have to like look at the rappers and the athletes as their only options, because they have examples around them of people that have that stability that they seek.
A lot of wealth evolution is just like consistency over time, like stability over time. So it's like
we're already behind.
One of the big things, like, I think it's just when it comes to building stability, it's like there's probably just like a few core factors that we're still struggling with in our community. So it's like, unless we fix those, I don't think it's going to matter how much time goes by. But I think the core is like stable income, a family, and, you know, a household or some type of asset you can pass down. If you do that for 3 generations, you're going to innately have wealth. Even in, you know, my family, you know, my grandfather had recently passed away, but he was actually able to leave a house, be fully paid for. That's going to continue in the line, going forward as an asset that can get passed down, repurposed for like money to start to give the next generation a head start. Like, you do that a couple generations, and, you know, that's like, you know, a couple of houses in the family. You know, wealth, you can actually like bring a kid into this world who already has like a trust fund. Like, that is where wealth is built. It takes time, but you need those core foundations.
Right. And just to piggyback off of that, like, if you really think back to World War II, right, just a little bit of history on this, if y'all not aware, after World War II, a lot of veterans were supposed to have the opportunity to buy a house at very good pricing. But that only went to white people, and it didn't go to black people. They were all denied housing, and that was a GI Bill or whatever it was called. That's probably not the name, but yeah. So
I
essentially,
think GI Bill is what it's called now, I think.
Okay. Yeah. But essentially, like, we're behind. We're going to be generations behind other people, and that's just the fact. That's just reality. Yeah. So we will probably get to that point that Alonzo mentioned, but it's going to take
within our lifetimes, I think.
Yeah. I work on stuff that I've seen, a part of my job where I see people that are like 100 years old still living today. So it's like that future is not that far away, like, or not that, that wasn't that long ago in a sense. Like, those people are still alive. So
all right,
we'll get there eventually. Just stay positive.
Anyone got some closing thoughts on this?
Stay positive. That's all I got to say.
Oh, I think it was a G.I. Joe is what you were looking to say, Leezy. G.I. Joe.
Yeah. G.I. Joe. Okay. All right, guys, we should probably close this out. We've been going for probably 30 minutes now. You can find this episode of the Code Podcast or any other episodes on social media and on our audio and video platforms. That is YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Rumble, anywhere you would want to find it. The Code Podcast. We're also on Patreon at The Code Podcast. $5 a month gets you access to any exclusive content we create, including the My Black Friends podcast, which we have been doing live streams for free. If you guys want to tune into the live streams, we'll be doing them once or twice a month. Every now and then they will be scheduled, so just make sure you check the podcast YouTube every now and then to see when they're scheduled. We'll also be making other exclusive content like skits or maybe some Q&As or something like that every now and then in 2024. But anyway, thanks for popping in, and we got to pop out of here.
All right. Peace.